Greetings traders, this is Coach Robert of Top Step TV, and in this video I am going to show you how to make Robert's ribeye. Let's go. Alright, let's gather our ingredients. We have our plate, fork, and a good sharp steak knife, of course. Malden sea salt flakes, best salt in the world right there. Fresh peppercorns in the grinder. This is organic garlic powder. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of that on. Worcestershire sauce, just a touch. I've been using this since I was a child. Kerrygold, pure Irish butter. Of course, it's salted. I also like to use the Amish rolled butter, if available. And here is our lovely ribeye. Beautiful marbling, perfect size. This is exactly 1 pound for the purpose of this video, and about 3/4 to 1 inch in depth for that perfect sear. Of course, we have our trusty cast iron pan, properly cured. As a side note, remember you don't want to use soap when you're cleaning these. Wipe them out, clean them up, coat them with a little bit of oil, and you are good to go. Let's get cooking. Okay, while we are preparing and seasoning our steak, we are going to preheat our cast iron pan. This is an electric stove. I prefer a gas stove, but this is what we have. So we'll put it on about medium high. We're going to let that get nice and warm before we put the butter in. So let's go season the steak. I've already added the ground peppercorns because I need 2 hands to do that. I only have 1 for the camera. So let's go over and take a pinch of salt. We are going to crunch it up and spread it evenly across the steak. And that looks just about right. I may add just a little bit more to it. And there it is. That is perfect right there. We're going to take our garlic powder and just a light coating. It's just a sprinkle from high above to evenly sprinkle across. And that looks about perfect right there. We're going to use a splash of Worcestershire sauce. And that looks about right. And then we have a final step, and I think this is the key, is I'm going to spread this around with the knife, nice and even, and then I'm going to poke some holes in it just gently about halfway through the steak. And this is going to push some of those spices right into the middle of it, including letting the Worcestershire sauce drip down inside. Not a lot. We don't want to ruin a lot of it. It's not really ruining it, but make sure we get it down inside seasoning. It's a little dry on this edge, so I'm going to move a little Worcestershire over here. And that looks about perfect, just like that. All right, next step, with the pan fairly heated up, I'm going to put a healthy amount of butter in the pan. And I'm going to move it around. I want to coat the pan entirely, and I want to make sure that the butter is sizzling. It's almost like a slight caramelization to it. We'll give that a moment. I'll let that melt. I'll show you exactly what we need to do before we put the steak in. Okay, this looks to be about right. I want to see the butter sizzling a bit when I'm moving it across the pan. This is just about right. And now we're just going to lie our steak in the pan. And you can hear the sizzle. Now what I'm going to do on this side is season it just like before. Put on our salt, our pepper, little garlic, little Worcestershire, and then poke some holes into it while it's cooking. Okay, and here we have the other side of the steak wonderfully seasoned. We can hear the butter sizzling right in here in the pan. And I'm looking for the brown on the bottom of the steak to be just about done like that. I don't want it too deep. I'm not going to quote a time because it's going to depend on the pan you use, the temperature of the stove, and how thick the steak is. So what I'm going to look for is just some browning here. Let's pick it up and take a look. And that looks just about perfect. I'm going to leave it for about another 15 seconds. And then when I turn it over, I'm going to cook it for about half the amount of time as the first side. Let's take a look. And there's the other side, flipped over, sizzling nicely. And we're just going to wait for about half the amount of time, in this case about 1.5 minutes, and we'll be right back. And there you have a nearly perfectly done Coach Robert's ribeye. One final step, the juice from the pan. Let's dump it on. That nice buttery seasoning flavor right across the top of the ribeye. One of the common recommendations is to let your steak sit for as long as you cooked it. I like to eat mine right away because I like the hotness from the outside and then the tenderness on the inside, because the longer you let it sit, it is actually still cooking slightly. So I want to eat it while it is done just the way I want. By the time I'm finished with this steak, it will be perfect. And there you have it. Coach Robert's perfectly cooked ribeye. And that looks delicious. Bon appetit.